Hey, and here I am for Living a Transformed Life, and today we're going to talk about challenging beliefs. Now, let me just give a review. So, first couple weeks, we talked about that we're like icebergs. We're only a little bit aware, really, of what we think, what we feel, what we believe. The rest is in our subconscious, and we're not all that present to it. Sneaks up us, creeps up on us in little bits of thoughts and feelings. And a lot of our life has been programmed through states of heightened emotion or repetition. Strong emotions that didn't get processed lead us to create beliefs. We did the water experiments. We talked about that, and we saw how, with Dr. Masaru Emoto, how thoughts and intentions and even just words could restructure the molecular structure of water. And so if you think about that, how much we're made up of water, well, then how have we allowed ourselves to be programmed through our thoughts and our beliefs, through repetition and those things just being rooted in our subconscious? So last week I talked about being mindful. I talked about paying attention. Thoughts creep up into our conscious from our subconscious, and maybe some emotions attached to them. So I'm going to build on that a little bit, and we'll eventually get to talking about how to release that. But one of the steps is just being really aware of it. With my clients, I do this one-on-one. We identify these emotions, we identify these beliefs, and we release them directly. So doing this in a teaching mode obviously is a little bit harder to do it on yourself than having, someone present and the techniques I use. But I'm going to attempt to help people to find those things in themselves. So I don't know if you did the homework last week, anybody listening, or go back and listen to the video, but the idea is, have you been listen to those little voices that are creeping up, that are negative? And they usually got programmed somewhere in your life to believe it. Now, so what I want to challenge you is, if you paid attention to those, if you wrote them down, then I encourage you to go back now and think about, where did those come from? Was that something that was in my home? Were my parents negative or critical, and I got these messages programmed from my parents? Did some of these messages come from watching my parents interact with each other? If my parents fought a lot, did I kind of tend to believe that you always have to defend yourself and protect yourself, and even the people you love are kind of out to cut you down, and you always got to be right? Or so you see what I'm saying? So you can begin to go back and look at events that happened in your life that you saw as negative or had emotions attached to them, and then think about, what did that lead me to believe about myself, about other people, or about the world? And even things like family rituals. What were holidays like? A lot of people, for holidays, there was always just a lot of partying and drunkenness and kind of negativity around that, and maybe developed the belief that, if there's a celebration, you got to get drunk, or you got to, somebody's going to be a jerk, or that family are people that, you hate but you have to love. So there's all these beliefs that we come up with that can also come just from family rituals and being with family. And we don't ever stop to question, this is true. I have clients a lot of time will tell me that when they were, say, 10, 11, 12, and they first started maybe doing sleepovers at other people's house, or were around friends' parents for extensive times, that may have been the first time they stopped and went, oh, my family isn't like this. Maybe this is more like normal, and my family's different, and I don't, I like this family. Maybe this family feels a little more like something I would want. And so a lot of times we don't even recognize something as negative or hurtful until we see something else to compare it to. Another example would just be school. So what does school teach you from kindergarten to 12th grade? It teaches you, if you're smart, the teachers love you and you do well, you're always competing. Everything in life is about competing with your peers and trying to do better than them. Schools maybe nowadays are a little more in touch in general, especially maybe smaller private schools, with these kind of mindsets. But we live in this very performance-based society that teaches us to place our value for ourselves and for other people on their performance. So this is a really big stronghold that kind of can pervade in a lot of areas in your life is that you are good when you're better than somebody else, you're bad when you're less than somebody else. It can also create this feeling in life of that you're just never good enough. You know, if you didn't get straight A's, how did people respond to that? And you know, it's funny, I'll give you an example that seems very benign, but it's all about how people react to you. So I grew up in Massachusetts. A lot of people were, a lot of Irish people in Massachusetts. So I had a lot of friends who had red hair and fair skin and freckles. And a lot of the girls hated their freckles. They hated that they have all these freckles. They wanted skin that wasn't freckled. And and they didn't necessarily talk about how great their red hair was, but they just hated their freckles. So I was talking to a friend recently who is redheaded and freckled, and I asked her, she was from a different part of the country, if she had that same upbringing, and she goes, oh no. She goes, I was the first one born in the family with redhead and freckles, and I was revered for this redhead and these freckles, and I stepped back and I thought, wow, she loves her freckles because everybody made such a big deal about this beautiful redheaded freckled girl. And even at that moment, I went, oh, so that's not universally true that people with freckles don't like their freckles. It depended on how they, you know, were responded to. And a lot of times we make fun of children just for fun. We don't, not necessarily even being hurtful or harmful, but we poke fun at them and we pick out their differences. And a lot of the things that even became issues and strongholds in my life were because of things people said to me, where they pointed things out that wasn't necessarily felt like a positive way when I was a kid. So, you know, multiply that about being too skinny, too fat, too tall, too short, too anything, or not enough anything. And it just seems to create these beliefs that really become very strong in people's subconscious and really guides and dictates their life. So if you haven't listened to last week's show on paying attention, go back and listen to that, and then listen to this one again. And so moving forward and living a transformed life, I want you to really start trying to go back and break down your life and listen for those messages that you got that may have resulted in some kind of negative belief. Obviously, in the country right now, we're dealing with a lot of racism and a lot of heightened racial activity. So did you get any messages about people of other races or cultures or skin colors when you were little, whether it was from family or it was from the environment or the circumstance that you're living? So go back and challenge those too. This isn't just about ourselves. This is about other people. What kind of stereotypes have we made up because we heard it more than once? And a lot of those stereotypes came from negative experiences too. And that made it feel very true because we had those negative emotions attached to those negative experiences. So go back as far as you can remember, go through each time, write them down. What were those negative experiences? What are those beliefs that you just believe that either everybody does this, or this is normal to believe this way? You know, we joke about men being bad with directions, and most of us women who had husbands who were bad with directions were late at some point or very frustrated because our husbands didn't ask for directions, and it affected us negatively. So then we developed this stereotype that all men are directionally challenged. Well, that's just not true. And we say those kind of things all the time, and although we're poking fun, a lot of times it really is revealing something in our subconscious that we have attributed to a people group or a gender or skin color that we've just decided is true. And like I said last week, if it's not universally true, we made it up. So do that homework, go back, think about things that you have made universally true because you saw it over and over again, you were told it by family, you accepted it as true. And try to go through and then look at maybe where you saw incidences where you knew that wasn't really true. We do things to survive and cope, but then when we come back, if we can let go of beliefs that may have been just environmental for a time, such as certain, you know, could be a key to finding some of these things. We'll do that homework. I'll be back next week. and we'll be trying to move forward. I'm trying to getting you to a place of reprogram these beliefs. I just read something recently, even today, on law of attraction work, that just trying to do positive affirmations doesn't work. And that's what I found in my practice. What makes what I do different is that we go in and find the emotions, the negative emotions that caused you to believe those negative beliefs. So we can't shift those negative beliefs until we get rid of some of the negative emotions attached to them, or we just won't be able to believe they're really true, because there's too much emotional energy in that. And so next week we're going to talk about triggers and understanding how another way to find beliefs come from triggers. I'll talk more about that next week. Hope you're getting something out of this, and if you take this time to do this, I really believe you'll see fruit in your life. Remember, the key to what I've said all along is that we've created our life based on quantum physics. The people in our life, everything, every aspect of our life, to a certain degree, we've created individually, or it's part of a collective creation, and we can change those areas that aren't working for us by simply recognizing they're not working for us, releasing the negative emotions attached to them, and then shifting them to something we really want to attract in our life. So we'll talk more about that next time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.